If you're having it for sweets, you have to make a bracha. The question will be if it's an appetizer. Appetizer is a big one because many people hold that an appetizer is mamish bottled to the meal. I don't know what that means, but some people have this mishagas that if they have this, then they'll be hungry. The concept of opening up an appetite. If you have something, many weddings they by us, they give a half a melon. That's the question, whether you have to make a bracha. If you washed. Okay. Gavaldik. It is good. You know, what you need to have is we have to have one shiur where someone goes through Gemara, Rashi, Tosfot, the Rosh, the Rif, the Rambam, to see the path, how it came into Shulchan Aruch. The expert in that, I'll mention it in the next year. Okay. All right. With the help of Hashem, we are learning brachas daf mem beis. We don't have any more comments as of yet on the shahakal in this year, but who knows? All right, we are in middle of the sugya of pas haba b'kisnin. Pas haba b'kisnin means you have some sort of food that has in it from the 5 grains, but it won't be a food that automatically demands a hamoitzi. And the sugya of pas haba b'kisnin has in it 2 details. Number 1, the whole concept of what bracha do we make on pas haba b'kisnin if you're having it during a meal or for a dessert for a meal. That's one question. And we have to define what it means. And then pas haba b'kisnin, as we'll learn on Daf Mem Beis, is a pas for which if one is going to be koiveya his su'uda on it, then you do have to make hamoitzi. In other words, if a person has noodles, lakshin, they can make kaviyah su'uda. No one holds that you make on lakshin a hamoitzi, even if you're kaviyah su'uda. On the other hand, if a person has what halacha considers pas, even if you are having the minimal of the minimal amount, you have to wash and make hamoitzi. Whether you have to make a bracha for the washing, whether you have to make birchas hamazon, there has to be shiurim. For the washing, kebetza. For the birchas hamazon, kezayis. But you have to make hamoitzi. There is this pas haba b'kisnin. It's an unusual type of pas, snack type of pas. We'll learn all the details. There, it depends whether you're kaveya suuda or not, whether you make hamoitzi or mezainis. And this also, just a definition of kaveya suuda is fascinating. Does kaveya suuda mean that I'm kaveya suuda? So learns the Ravid and other Rishonim, it has to do with me? Or is it about what most people who would be kaveya suuda would have that amount, even I have an appetite. For me, this is only a little snack. But it's a shiur that others are kaveya su'uda. Does that demand washing for it? The big machlokes all the way into the Shulchan Aruch, even though most opinions paskin like the Rambam, that it's not about you, not about me, it's about what most people. And if most people are kaveya su'uda on that amount, then we apply the concept of batla daita eitzel b'nei adam. Another question, as we have been learning in the previous year, Daf Mem Aleph, that if something is brought out during the meal, so we had a whole array of opinions of Amirayim, whether it's included in the meal, like if it's brought out as a sweet, whether even if you have to make a bracha rishayna, maybe the bracha achrayna is not covered through the washing. But there are dinim of something that's eaten during a meal versus if something is eaten outside of the meal, then of course you have to make its own brachas for it. How do you define the meal? So it's not the way people think, did I bench or did I not bench? Zich or not. There are various opinions that will give you different times. Once this happened, the meal is over. Like Lamashal, in those days, everyone would have a little table upon which there would be food. Right? Once that table was removed, you can argue the meal is over. The meal is over, even though you didn't bench yet, but maybe you have to make a bracha rishayna because it's not b'toich hasu'uda or other such simanim. Ultimately, we're going to learn about mayim achroinim being the determiner. Once mayim achroinim was burot, that means the meal is over. And if you change your mind too late, it's a good thing. Too late meaning make another bracha. We're going to learn. We're going to learn about one. There's a rule called shemeya ka'ina. Shemeya ka'ina means that listening is tantamount to saying it yourself. which theoretically would mean that I never have to make my own brachas if I hear you making your brachas. Chazal, the Chachamim, limited the usage of Shemea Ko'ena by brachas, only allowing us to use it if people are eating together. When people eat together, then one can make the bracha for the others, and indeed, they made it that way. And until today, by Sfardim, whoever benches out loud, and people listen. Shemea Ko'ena. But if you are not eating together, the Chachamim didn't want us to use Shemea Ko'ena. They wanted everyone to make their own bracha. So that we have to define, how do you define people eating together? We'll learn what the Gemara says, we'll learn a tosfot, how he says that b'chlal we don't eat the way they ate then, and he applies the dinim of the Gemara to bizmanenu. We're going to be learning about the minig that people had, that after the meal, they would have wine, and they would smell something that smells good. And that was called mugmar. And the negea, the brach is on that as well. Tam v'reyach. Tam means a good taste, wine. Right? shiurwine.com. All right. So we left off on daf mem beis, on daf mem aleph amid beis. 5 lines before the bottom of the amid, guys. We're beginning a braisa. How do you know that? Because Ben Zoyme is a Tanach. But when you're learning the Gemara, sometimes you're chap. The Gemara ended, and now we finished last year the Hilchasa. And it's very important just to reiterate that just because the Gemara said Hilchasa doesn't mean that we follow that halacha, right? This is just, we're learning about the source of all of these questions, and now we're beginning by quoting a brais. Sha'alo es Ben Zoyma. They asked Ben Zoyma, why did they say that if food that is coming machmas hasuuda? We learned rashi in the last year. You're eating it with bread. It's a relish to the bread, and it's b'toich hasuuda. You don't have to make a bracha, not prior nor after. Amar Lohem explained Ben Zoyma. His name was Shimon. He's not given his own name either because he passed away before he was 40, or because he didn't get smicha, or because he didn't get married, or all of the above. Amar Lahem, choyel upas pleitarton. That since everyone agrees to that, if you're having it with the bread during the meal, it's included in the bread. So they asked Ben Zoyme, Ihachi, Yayin Nami, Nifterei Pas. Right, wine that is being eaten with the bread, the din is that wine is never included in the hamoitz. You have to make a boire priagofen. But if you're having wine with the bread, I grew up in Brazil, our minig was we would dip the bread in the coffee. Dip the bread for kids. What happens? The people would dip the bread in the wine. That's the biggest lift on. The lapis esapas. Still, the din is you got to make. Why? Why don't we say this concept? If you're having it with the bread, if that's the rule, so it should include the birchas hagefen, but that's not the case. You do have to make a boire priagefen. Answers the Gemara, shana yayin. Wine is different. Daf mem beis. Why? We had these words 2 daf ago. Because the goyrem bracha la'atzmaim, the goyrem bracha, it brings about a blessing on itself. Meaning, look inside the top Rashi. That's the way Rashi learns. Bekama mekoymos huba. It's brought out many times, even when people b'chlal don't want to have the wine. They don't want to have the wine, not to help them drink the food. They're not in the mood of having wine, but there are times that we have to have wine nonetheless, which is when, Rashi doesn't say it, Rashi said it above, by Kiddush, by Havdalah, by Birchas Chasanim. So since wine comes just for the mitzvah, not connected for why you want it. Even when you don't want it, you have to have it. So even when you have it as a means to help you swallow the bread, digest the bread, v'chulei, wine already stands by itself, and wine always demands its own brach. Okay. Now, before we go on to the next line, just say the following. The word kisnin means pockets, pocket bread. Rabbeinu Hananel therefore teaches pasam b'kisnin. We read the Rashi in the last year. Okay, Rashi puts together the Rabbeinu Hananel and the rambam. Rabbeinu Hananel says pasam b'kisnin means you make a dough out of normal dough from the 5 grains. Eloma, you fill it up with all sorts of goodies, pie, even, I don't know how pies are made now, but even though you have a proper dough, since it's made as a pie, or we said you have pita bread, and it's ungestoppt mit falafel, okay, I don't know if that's a good mashal, because they used to fill it up with sweets. Pasa baba kistan is something that is made out of the 5 grains, but it's made to be eaten as a snack.
Crunchy.
Okay, the Rambam says it's not about you filling up the dough in a pocket with a goizim and shkedim and all sorts of goodies, but it's about the dough being made sweet. And just lahoyer, that lashitas Rambam, which would mean you make the dough, instead of using water, you use fruit juice or you use oil. It has to be discernibly sweet. It has to be a dough that when you taste the dough, you know you're not having bread.
Sounds like baklava. That's what it sounds like.
Then he's saying, I don't know what baklava is, but say the baklava. It's very important because many people, for sure wrongly, they make bagels and they say the bagels is mazoinus, pasa babakistan. Why? Because they put fruit juice. If you cannot taste the difference, then according to you, don't blame it on the Rambam. And then you have the third shitas from Rabbi Gon. Rabbi Gon says that it's speaking about a biscuit. A biscuit, no, it's not even like bread. It's thin, it's hard, and it's sweet. Shulchan Aruch brings all of these opinions. Macaroni, lakshin, is zikr not pasa baba kisnan. That's mazoinus. Porridge is mazoinus. We're speaking about it's a pas, but it's made for sweets, and it's normally consumed as sweets. Cracker, a pie, a Danish, it's a dough that's very sweet. Now, came along Rav Huna, ochal tleisa rifte. He ate 13 loaves of pasa baba kisnan. And don't think that these were little loaves. B'nei tlasa bekava. 3 loaves amounted to a kav. A kav is 24 eggs. It means if 3 loaves into a kav, so then what do we have over here? We have each bread is of the size of 8 eggs. And we just learned at Rashi when we speak about achilas pras. Achilas pras is 4 eggs, 8 eggs. A proper loaf, he ate 13 standard size loaves. However, v'loi barich. V'loi barich, b'chlav v'loi barich. So Rashi teaches that he didn't make an after bracha. Let's go with Rashi. The other Rishonim understand differently. In other words, what he didn't make an after bracha? He didn't make an after bracha means he didn't make birchas hamazon, which means he made a mazoinus and he made a be'en shalish. So says Rashi, we'll see soon, other Rishonim will quote him that say even more than that. Okay. Amalei Rav Nachman says Rav Nachman to Rav Huna, Adi. Rashi says, these, kafna, this is to take care of hunger. Look inside Rashi. The third and the fourth line from the top of the Amid. Rashi quotes 2 Ga'onim in teaching the lines of the Gemara. Elu, Koloimer, Elu liravai nechlu. Va'achila meruba kezu loy nefteres mi bracha. Elo. Not vas, yeah. Look at the words of Rashi. What does kiviyah su'uda mean? Not if you ate it for your meal. We don't look at you. We look at the world. We look at the majority of the people. Kol sha'achedim koivin achilosan b'kach to'un birchas hamazon. That's the first, and he brings from Rabbi Goin and he slugs it up. Okay. So let's learn pshat over here is that he treated pas hababa kistan like mazoinus. He made a mazoinus and he made an alamichya. He ended up eating 13 loaves. So Rav Nachman tells him, how can you not make birchas hamazon? Ella, kol sha'achedim koivin olav su'uda tzarich levarich, means you got to make a hamoitzi and a birchas hamazon. Next story. Rav Yehuda have... Well, like this. In all of these 3 notes, what are we saying? We're saying that if you're having a pie, let's go with all this, a pocket bread, or if you're having bread that the dough is sweet, but it's a bread, it looks like a bread, but it's a sweet dough, or it's a lot of biscuits, a certain amount, if people have that amount, right, the shiurim is, Rav Moshe's true was on pizza. How many slices? It comes to Acherim koivin sudas aleim, then it becomes into hamoitzi and birchas hamazon. Rav Yehuda have a asik leila brei. Rav Yehuda was marrying off his son Bei Rafel Yehuda bar Chaviva to his mechutin that had the same name. Just know the problem of having the same names, right? Rav Yehuda chassid is not two mechutanim. It's about a father-in-law and son-in-law. You know, right? That's the challenge. In other words, if your spouse has the same name as your father or mother, that's where you might. Here, the two mechotanim have the same names. And the Aisul Kamayu Pasaba Bekisnan. It's interesting that this is what happens nowadays by shmuggas boards, by weddings. That before the meal, they bring out Pasaba Bekisnan, and people treat it very lightly because they say, this is not the meal, this is just a shmuggas board. And Ki Asem, when Rav Yehuda came, the father of the chassan, Shami'inu, he heard the Kamavarchi Hamoitzi. He heard people washing and saying Hamoitzi. Amar Lahu, he was upset. And he expressed himself by saying, my tzitzi, the Kashamayna. Tzitzi is Hamoitzi. Amir, tzitzi, what's the tzitzing about? Dilma Hamoitzi, Lechem and Haaretz, Kamavarchinun. And they told him, absolutely yes. Amrulay in the Tanya, Rav Moina Amar, in the name of Rebbe Yehuda, Pasa Baba Kisnin, Mevarchem Aliyah HaMoitzi, and V'Amar Shmuel. Shmuel says Halacha Kirav Moina. So therefore we made HaMoitzi. Challenges back Rav Yehuda. I also heard Shmuel. Shmuel said the opposite of what you heard Shmuel said. No, Ein Halacha Kirav Moina Itma. That is what Shmuel says. We don't pass like Rav Moina. Gewaldig. Amar lei, hold on. V'hamar hu the Amar Mishmei de Shmuel. You, Rav Yehuda, yourself, you quoted Shmuel that says lachmaniyos. Lachmaniyos is one type of pasababa kisnan. And here we're jumping the ingen le'ingen. When there are times that we have to make a eruv techumen, eruv chatzeros. Let's speak about, in order for me to be able to carry from one place to the other, or for me to be allowed to walk beyond the 2,000 amas outside of the city. And you quoted Shmuel by saying that if the bread that you have to be koveya the eruv is not proper bread, but it's pasababa kisnen, you can use it. Ma'arvin bahen. Umevarchen alayim hamoitzi. Shani Hassam says, Rav Yehuda, I also agree that if you are koveya suuda on pasababa kisnin, then you got to be then you make hamoitzi, and therefore you can use it for an eruv. The whole concept of an eruv is that you're being koveya your suuda. But by the wedding, from the way they were eating it, eating it standing, walking around, there the kavas udasi alayu. Avalecha the kavas udasi alayu. It's only a smorgasbord loy. Even though you're having pasababa kisnin, it's not going to get to the ayukaveya suuda. And we should know that the current poskim are very critical of this whole mishugas of people not washing by a smorgasbord. By arguing, unlike in the times of the Gemara, that people were kaveya suuda, as we'll see in this amid, not only by sitting down and by leaning. I'm talking about not making hamoitzi. Smorgasbord is what we serve in America. Not in it's Yisrael, they don't have this, or they have it in a whole different Madrid garnish. They have a psatoim.
Not washing.
I'm talking about when they serve in a smorgasbord, they have all these foods that are pasababa kislan. So they have these finger foods that have a lot of them. What are these? The word hot dog. I don't like saying a dog. We can't eat a dog. D'oeuvres before.
Oh, got it. Okay.
They serve these.
Like a Frankenblanket.
The Frankenblanket. Oh, tazoi, egg rolls. Mamish, that's a pasababa kisnin. Think about an egg roll. If it's made out of the chamesh haminim, and you're having it all sorts of vegetables. If you're kaveya suuda on it, then you got to make hamoitzi and birchas hamazon. It's about how much do you eat. People eat a lot. There are certain menhagim here in LA that they call a wedding for 5. They take joy in making it at 10, and they're happy. Wow, you saw how long we waited? But no one is angry because we gave food. If you gave food, people have behemoths. You can eat, you're happy. And people eat terrible amounts. So in a time that you made a su'udah by sitting and leaning here, everyone in America, people, there's no derecheretz anymore here. Everyone eats standing. It's zicher a meal.
So if you're standing, is that not a...
No, not anymore. Many places can say just because you're standing because there's no chair.
But it's not a
Huh?
But it's not a meal for them, because they're going after that.
So the Rambam and the Ravid. Remember, this is. I mean, we're learning that the Ravid says Kaviyah Sud has to do with your intent. The Rambam, and it's mashma from the Lashon, even in the Gemara. It's about kol sha'achedim. It has to do with the amount that other people eat for a meal.
Like an objective amount.
And there's objective amount, and then in this concept of an objective amount, there's another whole discussion in the Poiskim. What does that mean? What happens if different countries have different amounts of food, and then you have different ages? Pasha, a teenager, remember how much we ate when we were teenagers? What we are kaveh suda on, and take a yid with a white beard, he has a tenth of that, he's already full. So does this objective go to location? Does it go to gender? Does it go to age? But there is a certain amount that kol sha'achedim, that's called a meal. Okay. You need to have, in other words, you need everything. Once you got to make hamoitzi, it means you have to wash, you got to make hamoitzi, and you got to make berachas hamazon. Okay. Rav Papa ikval lebei Rav Huna. Rav Papa went to the house of Rav Huna, the son of Rav Nosson. And basar the gemarastudy udusayu. After the meal was finished, aisu lekamayu midi lemechol. They brought something to eat. You just finished eating? Go figure. Nothing changed. Oh, epis to eat. So shakal Rav Papa took that food, v'ka'achol, and he ate it. And in other words, he ate it without making a bracha. Amri, they asked Rav Papa, loisavar lon mar, does master not subscribe that gama, that once you finish the meal, even though you didn't yet bench, the meal is over. Then asur mila'echol, you may not eat without making another bracha. Now asur mila'echol, let's look at the Rashi, 50 lines on the top of the Amid, was if you had in mind that the meal is over, as we'll define in greater detail soon, what's that asur mila'echol, says Rashi, then don't even eat now. Don't make a bracha prior, and then you have a question whether you make a bracha afterwards, like we had in the last daf. Don't eat at all. First bench, and then v'yachzer v'yivarech ala balafanav. Because the kiven, the gamar, once you finish the meal, asach date, you had hesach hadas, mi bracha rishoina, you had hesach hadas from the first bracha and from the meal. So Rashi learns pshat in the Gemara that they told Rav Papa, not only did you need to make a bracha, you don't even have the option of making a bracha prior, and even if you want to make prior and after, don't do anything. Don't eat. Bench and then eat again. So Amalei says, Rav Papa, I do subscribe, but you're not quoting it correctly. It's not gamar, but it's sileik. When do we say the meal is over? If they removed what? So here again there's a machloikas. Either if they removed all the food and desserts off the table, or then that they ate on small tables, they removed the table itself. Everyone had a little tishala. They removed the tables. That is where we say the meal is over. And therefore, if more food is brought out, not only do you have to make a bracha, don't eat it now. First, bench, and then go make a new meal. Like Rava, or according to the Mesaidas Hashas Rabba, v'rabzeira, iklo lebei l'reish galusa. They went to eat in the household of the reish galusa. Now, the reish galusa was not eating with them at the table, but they were guests in the hush of a house. Labasar the saliku taka mikamayo. After the table was removed, Shadru luhu ristana mibei reish galusa. The reish galusa sent them shirayim, a portion of food. So what happened? Let's be consistent. Rabba says, Rabba ate it, and Abzeda didn't eat it. And Omar late Abzeda tells Rabba, Savar lon mar, do you not subscribe to? Let's go with the emendation. Sileik asr mila'echol. Omar lay, no. Anan ataka the reish galusa samchina. When I eat in my house, I'm the balabas. Once the meal is over, by let's say removing the tables, then the meal is over. But when you are a guest in someone else's house, even though they remove the tables, but it's not called sileik, because just like they removed it, who determines that? The reish galusa. The fact that the reish galusa that wasn't in the room, he sent shirayim for them to have during that meal, that means that they never thought about ending the meal. They're going with what the balabas is doing, and as long as the balabas didn't have sileik, and the reish galusa didn't have sileik, the reish galusa wasn't there. The reish galusa heard, I have chashav amoyroim eating by me in the house, send them some food. So since in his mind the meal was not over, it goes after the intent of the balabayis and not of the guest. Now Amarav, continuing in the same Hemshech Hadvarim, Haragol b'Shemen, it was customary in those days that after the meal was over, and people then ate with their hands, and they didn't have napkins and they had no running water. So it was common that there was all sorts of shmekaks coming out of your fingers and your mouth. So what was the solution? Look at the solution. Anoint yourself with oil. Machaya. Figure that. So your hands are filled with yoyach and who knows what. So put oil. And that's good. Now you smell like olive oil. Right? The minhag, you have French. I love the French, but that's the minhag. If there's a bad odor, they add a good odor to the bad odor. And that they put on deodorant. A lot of deodorant. I love the Frenchies. I'm just saying the stam. So the thing is, Shemen ma'akvoy. I did mention that the Frenchies are the Canaanites. That's a whole different topic. Not the Yidden, the Goyim. Okay. Shemen ma'akvoy. The Shemen... Oh, I'm going to get into trouble. The shemen. So the shemen was the last thing you did when the meal was over. You poured oil on your hands. So that means now the meal is over. Amar Ravashi ki havinan beirav kahana Amar lon ki goinanon deregilan b'mishcha ma'akvalon. He says, identify with that. My boss, the minig is that at the end of the meal we would wash our hands with oil. And we all subscribe to the concept that once the meal is over, you can't now, you can't say, no, bring more food. But what's the determining factor? What's the line? The cutoff line is the anointing your hands with oil. Says the Gemara, it's not the removing of the food. It's not the removing of the table. It's not even anointing your hands with oil. That he says, there are three immediacies. There are three things that one has to come immediately after the other. One rule is tekev l'smicha shchita. By many karbanos brought by men in the Beis Hamikdash, there is a mitzvah. That's not li'ikuva, but there's a mitzvah. That right before shchita, the owner has to lean with his hands, two hands, with all of his koyach on the head of the animal, and either say words of confession for a chatos, or say words of praise of a shlamim. This act should be done right before shchita, as this is therefore many halachas come out of this concept. And take of liga'ula tefillah, as we have been learning so much in Berachot, that after we speak about Hashem as being our Redeemer, right after that start your Shemona Esrei. And take of l'netilas yadayim bracha. This netilas yadayim, my friends, refers to mayim achroinim. So when you wash mayim achroinim, now the meal is over. Before you wash mayim achroinim, the meal is not over. Even if you already did your anointing with your oil. So now that we mentioned that, Amar Abaya, by the way, because of that, this adin in Shulchan Aruch, that if a person washed mayim achroinim and they spoke out, they have to wash mayim achroinim again. Can't make a hefsek. You can't make any hefsek because of takef l'netilas yadayim bracha. Amar Abaya af anu. Let's add tekev l'talmidei chachamim bracha. That right adjacent to a tzaddik comes a bracha. Right? Talmidei chachamim in the concept of Yirei Shamayim. Shenemar, as it says, either we find this both in Vayetze, by Yaakov Avinu and Lavan, that Lavan admitted that Vayivarcheni Hashem biglolecha. Iba Yisema, we have the same thing, Mahacha Shenemar by Yosef Atzadik, right, in Parshas Vayeshev by Potifar, Vayivarech Hashem is Beis HaMitzri beglal Yosef. So Tekev, the Talmidei Chachamim, the closer we get to the Rebbe, because right around there's a bracha. Not we should do it shaloi l'shma, but just the fact that the closer we are mekusher, the greater the bracha. Okay, moving on to the next Mishnah. Berach alayayin shalifnei hamazin. Berach alayayin shalifnei hamazin chevre. Look inside Rashi. Noihagin hoyu lohavi koydem achilas kois yayin achila kois yayin lishtos. Before they would have a meal, before they would wash, the minhag is they would bring a cup of wine. Okay, and a person made a bracha on that wine. So says the Mishnah, Pater esayayin shala achar hamazin. Says Rashi, the wine that they had la'achar hamazin was before birchas hamazin. This is important. After the meal, mazin in our Mishnah means the meal. They would have wine before they washed. We even learned before right before the Seder. There the Gemara said that only a lot of wine opens up the appetite. A little bit is misad sod, makes you satisfied. However, here they had wine before the meal, then they had wine before they benched, but after the meal. So says the Mishnah that the bracha that you made on wine before the meal serves as the bracha rishoina for the wine after the meal.
Also the wine of Kiddush.
Also the wine of Kiddush, that we make Kiddush, and since we made Kiddush, even though you're having wine for the bracha, if you have wine during that Su'udah Shabbos, you don't make another bracha on the wine. When the Rebbe Rashab established Temchet Temimim, so what's the Seder that we have? We learn Chassidus, then we learn Nigla, then we learn Chassidus, right? That's the Mishnah. Yayin is Chassidus, Yayin Shel Torah. Lechem is the basics, Nigla. So that was the Mishnah. You have wine, you have bread, and you have wine. Next din in the Mishnah, and a lot of this will be defined later on Daf Mem Gimel. Beirach ala parperes. So parperes means some sort of peripheral dish. Peripheral means it's somehow connected, but it's not mamish part of the meal. So there were certain foods that were eaten as a parperes. So if you made a bracha on parperes before you washed, right before you washed, if you had a little piece of fish, we'll learn details in a moment, then patar es ha-parperes shala achar hamazon. If those same items are brought after the meal.
It's like fruit, maybe?
Going back to the sugya that we had on Daf Mem Aleph Amud Beis. There are certain foods, even though they are eaten before Birchas HaMazon, we had all these Amoyroyim, you're having it for a sweet, then you have to make, according to some opinions, a bracha before and after. Now, how does it work according to the other Amoyroyim? That's a kasha. But I'm saying, so if you made a bracha on that type before the meal, it pater is the paper shel achar hamazon. Beirach ala pas, if you washed first, then pater as ha-parperes. Now, again, see, then this goes into that sugya. What exactly is parperes? We just learned this whole sugya. Our Amoyroyim that hold that certain foods are not covered in the meal, so we'll have to further define the parperes. However, ala parperes, but if you make a bracha on the parperes, loy pater as ha-pas, it doesn't exempt bread. What's even the havamina? So what is parperes? All this will lead us to that parperes is a food that comes from the chameshos haminim. It's similar to pasaba bekisnim. Pasaba bekisnim, as we started out today, is more pas than porridge. Like we mentioned, if a person is kaveh asur on porridge, they don't wash. So there's bread, there's the parperes, and the parperes will be a mezoinus. So they made a mezoinus on the parperes before the meal. Then if they have mezoinus before benching, they don't have to make the mezoinus. If you make a bracha on the pas, it does exempt parperes, especially if you have the parperes with the bread. Okay, it's included in the meal. But if you made a bracha on the parperes, loy pater as pas. It doesn't even exempt porridge. Now, what is Bishamai referring to, the ratio or the sefer? I'll explain this question when we learn the Gemara. The Gemara is going to clarify what Bishamai is talking about. Next thing, like we mentioned in the intro, there is a concept in halacha called Shemei HaKo'ena. Shemei HaKo'ena means that listening, especially with intent, is mamish tantamount to saying it yourself or to responding. On a do'iraisa level, that would mean that I never have to make a bracha if I hear the bracha from you. Midrabanan, the Chachamim didn't want me to always make use of Shemei HaKo'ena. They limited it, and they say, if people are eating together, then use Shemei HaKo'ena, which would mean only one bracha, only one person makes the bracha prior, only one person makes the bracha la'achrei, loud, and everyone listens, and they're yoytze. But if you're not eating together, hoyo yoyshim kol echad, people are, even though, we'll see soon, even though they are physically together, but they're not eating together, mevarech la'atzmai, the Chachamim say, don't use Shemei HaKo'ena. When do we use it? When heisevu, if they are leaning together. So the minig then was that people who ate, first of all, they didn't only sit down, they would lean, and everyone leaned. If people made a circle and they sat in a group and they leaned together, the haseva is what determined, what expressed their togetherness. Since you're having a meal together, then echad mevarech l'kulan. Says Tosfos, the last Tosfos in the Amid. Tosfos says, right, va'anu ein lano haseva, elo bepas bilvad, ubepas mahane afilu b'lo haseva. He's saying that we're not knowing that way. Today, when we make hamoitzi today, what do? Today, Shabbos, you make hamoitzi for everyone else. No one is eating b'haseva. So Tosfot says that our sitting at a table is equal to the haseva in the times of Chazal. No one leans today. Elama, to bring it down to practically to us, if me and you are both eating standing, according to Tosfot, that's not the way we're supposed to eat. Even though we're both eating in the same place. No, we're not eating together. Everyone makes their own bracha. The moment we sit around the table, that's pshat eating together. Turning to that, says the Mishnah. Weiter. If wine is brought out in the middle of the meal, everyone will make a bracha for themselves. However, but if wine is brought after the meal, then one makes a bracha for everyone. And here again, Rashi says, we'll learn in the Gemara more ways of understanding this line in the Mishnah. We'll leave it for the Gemara. Vehu, the same person that recites the bracha on the wine, lekulam, he is the one that makes the bracha on mugmar. Mugmar is incense. And like Rashi writes, shahoyu regilim lohavi lifneim achar achila. After they finished the meal, they would bring out avukas, roichlin, a bundle of spices from the perfume sellers, and they would put it on fire in little pans, right? Like in the fancy restaurants to make azar rash, and that would bring out azar aroma, l'reach toiv. So when you finish eating, my friends, first your hands get filled with oil. Then nabach, you sit in a cloud of this reach. And they will make a bracha boirei atzei psamim. So when someone is making the bracha for everyone, for the wine, that is the one that makes the bracha on the mugmar. Which means, Rashi says here, even though mugmar was brought after benching, who was the one that made the bracha on the wine? The one that made the bracha on the wine, it comes out Rashi before benching. We'll leave that more for the Gemara. Doesn't matter. Since the wine brought at the end of the meal is connected to ending the meal, and the mugmar is connected to the ending of the meal, so the same one that had the kavod for this has the kavod for that. Okay, we're going to break apart every part of the Mishnah. Let's begin. Says the Gemara. Amar Rabba bar bar Chana Amar Rebbe Yochanan. Lo shanu. That what? That we're speaking, the Mishnah began speaking about wine. And let's use the words, there's pre-dinner wine and there's post-dinner wine. Rashi says the post-dinner wine was before Birchas Hamazon. And the Mishnah says that if you make, an individual, if I made a bracha on wine pre-dinner, and I'm having wine at the end of my meal, post-dinner, before Birchas Hamazon, I need not make another bracha. That wine is already included in the bracha, even though I made the bracha before I washed. Says that's true on Shabbos and Yontif. People make a meal around wine. It's the minhag for people to drink wine after the meal. When you made the bracha pre-dinner, you knew that you're going to be having wine after the dinner. Two details in this din. Number one, during the weekday, since when you make a bracha, if we can just unpackage that later, since when you make a bracha pre-dinner, you don't even know if you're having wine post-dinner, even if de facto wine then is brought out, and you're the balabas. But since you didn't have that intent, it doesn't include the post-dinner. Another detail, not only that, but post-dinner, when you made a bracha on one cup, and then you decided to have a second cup, you have to make a bracha again on the second cup. Even post-dinner to post-dinner, one doesn't cover the other. Because when you have each cup, you're not intending for it to include anything other than this cup. Because you only have one cup of wine. But then you have shiur wine. Azay good, you have another cup of wine. But that you decided later. Itmanami, Amar Bar Mari, Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Lo yishanu ela b'shabbos v'yamim tovim. When people leave a bathhouse, we're speaking about you really give a schwitz, and the body needs to have nourishment. Who knows what they give you today in these places? What should you really have? Wine. Because your body has to be renourished. Or b'shas hakazas sadam, if a person bloodlets, and they would take out a lot of blood, not the little miserly pint. They would make holes in your shoulders, right? And that person would be without blood. So how do you replace the blood? Wine. So there, hoyel va'adam kaveh, so does say alayayin. So you know when you have one cup, you're not having one cup. You're going to have a lot of wine. Avol b'shari yimais hashana mevarech al kol kois v'kois. Okay, weiter. Rabba Bar Mari Ikla, he visited Lebei Rava, to the house of Rava during a weekday, and Chazye, and he saw the Barich Lifnei Hamazin, that Rava made a bracha on the pre-dinner wine, and again for Hadar Barich La'achar Hamazin. And don't forget, it's very important to what we learned in Amud Aleph. He was the balabas. It's when I'm not the balabas, then avada, you don't make a bracha, because even if you intended to have wine, if the minig was that people did not drink wine post-dinner, you're not going to have wine. Even the balabas, Rava himself, the fact that Rava made a bracha again on the post-dinner wine is a raya that even though it was bichol toy to have wine the whole time, that wasn't his intent. And then he changed his mind. I'm sorry, now you got to make another bracha. Amar lei yishar, good, yasher koyach, you're doing good. Okay. Weiter. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef ikla lebei Abaye b'yamtiv and Chazye, and he saw that on yamtiv Abaye the barich al kol kasa v'kasa minakatz al akatz. Oh, it's not only did the post dinner not include the pre dinner, did not include the post dinner, but after the meal he made a haboy to priyagofen. He drank a cup. Then he had another cup, and again he made a bracha. Amar leili savel and mar hadar b'shua ben Levi. Amar lei nimlach anu. Nimlach means that I don't drink wine even on Yom Tov after the meal, even though I reconsidered. Oh, I know myself. If I did not, even though if everyone else drinks many cups of wine after the meal, I wasn't planning on doing that. And when I drank one cup, I thought I'm only having one cup. If I reconsider, I have to make another pre-brach, another boirei priyagofen.
So it's all about your own.
All about my intention. Elyahu, bo lahem yayin b'toich hamazon. No, a person is having a meal. They did not make, like in the Mishnah's case, they didn't make a hagefen on wine pre-dinner. The first time wine was brought on the table was during the meal. I think we even started today's shiur that they would have wine during the meal to help them digest the food, swallow the food, open the appetite, whatever. But it was during the meal, and they made a hagefen. So now the question is, the Mishnah didn't speak about that. Explains the Gemara why this case might not be the case of the Mishnah. By the Mishnah. Indeed, that no one argues with the Mishnah. Do you know why is that? Because the purpose of both wines was l'shem mitzvahs, drinking wine. So it's not only the same bracha, it's brought for the same purpose. That's why one is included in the other. But over here, after the meal was to drink wine. During the meal, it's called lishrois. Lishrois literally means that maybe they would dip the bread in the wine. We learned the bread had no tam then, they needed salt to give tam. Maybe you couldn't swallow it, it was too hard. So if wine was brought only to help you eat the bread, and Yotaka made a hagafen on it, but maybe that hagafen does not include post-dinner wine. Right? So here we look at all these opinions. Rav Poiter, Rav Kahana ain't a Poiter. Rav Nachman Poiter, Rav Sheshes Amar ain't a Poiter. Rav Funa Rav Yehuda. Here's the Chiddush. And v'chol tamina de Rav Amri. What did they say? Einoi Poiter. Nuchevra halkop. What did Rav say? Poiter. It can be that all of Rav's Talmidim went against the psak din of the rebbe. That's the way the Gemara is saying that even when you have quoted Gechazir, Rav had a certain opinion. If you see the Talmidim of that person did the opposite, it means that Rav himself must have changed his mind. No, Ross, we never heard it from him. But you know how we hear it? We look at the behavior of the Talmidim. Mazar Abachayim. Esvei Rav Nachman. From our Mishnah, right? This is Akash and all of the leaning into opinions, right? That mid-dinner covers post-dinner. Cook in the Mishnah. It says in the Mishnah, Bolahem yayin b'toich hamazayin. We learned the Mishnah, we said we'll have to explain it, right? That's the top line in the Amid. In the Mishnah, Kol echad leyachad mevarach la'atzmai. Everyone makes a bracha for himself. If la'achar, and then la'achar hamazayin, echad mevarach l'kulam. So, the simple pshat in the Mishnah means that if the way we're learning it, wine came during the meal, everyone has to make a bracha. But not only that, the Mishnah gives a detail. If it's coming during the meal, everyone should not use the shemea ko'ina. Make your own bracha. and everyone made their own bracha. And then when wine comes la'achar ha'seuda, guy's going to be lit. Then one person should make a bracha for everyone. What does that prove? Forget about the detail of you making a bracha individually or one person making it for everyone. The fact, if it's the same case, that even though everyone made a bracha on wine, b'toich ha'seuda, they have to make a bracha la'achar ha'seuda. Elama, one for all. But a bracha is a raya that mid-dinner doesn't cover post-dinner. Answers the Gemara, Amarlei, Hachi Kamar. And let me tell you the pshat in the Mishnah. Im loy bo lehem yain b'toich ha'mazayin el achar ha'mazayin, then echad mevarach l'kulam. The Mishnah is speaking about two separate cases. And with a few dinim. First of all, wine that comes during the meal, and you have to make a hagafen, even though people are eating together, don't do shemei ha'ko'ena. Everyone make their own bracha. And he's learning pshat, and in that case, when the post-dinner wine is brought, no one makes a bracha. And the Mishnah gives another din. That when do we say that kol echad mevarach la'atzmai on wine, if the wine came, b'toich ha'seuda, if it comes la'achar ha'seuda, and no one made a bracha before, and a bracha has to be made, here we say, not only does a bracha have to be made, but one person makes it for all.
Why? I mean, what's the rationale to have shemei kohen only at the end and not in the middle?
L'chayda, people are really together before they eat. Look at people eating today. Everyone is together before we eat, like even everyone waits for the hamoitzi to be made. Everyone benches together. But when everyone is eating, everyone is eating. I like chicken, you like this, you like that. People are in their own worlds. People start together. That's etiquette. Don't start before other people. Other than swallowing the bread of hamoitzi. The Zohar says you have to eat it before everyone else. If not, it's detrimental to everyone else. Makes sense, no? During the meal, there's no togetherness. It's such a behemish thing eating. Everyone is in their own, selfish. You're selfish. You're selfless before, you're selfless afterwards. During the meal, you're not thinking about him. You don't even see him. Maybe. You have a better idea? Give it to me. Right. Berach alapas. Oh, now I have to push it, understand the pshat in the Mishnah. So it says in the Mishnah that if a person makes a bracha on the bread, that patters the parperes, some sort of peripheral dish. If a person makes a bracha on the parperes, obviously right before the meal, loy pater as hapas. And on that, so now there's two dinim. There's a din that paters parperes. We call that the ratio. There is another din that parperes doesn't pater pas. And now Beis Shammai, we don't know if Beis Shammai is a hemshech to the ratio, or Beis Shammai is a hemshech to the sefer. Beis Shammai says, the whole yeshiva, they say in plural, oimrim, af loy maisa kedera. It doesn't even cover a porridge.
What does it? The parperes?
Wait, we don't know. That's the question. To say that, in other words, Elyahu, they asked in the yeshiva, hold on, is Beis Shammai referring to the ratio? Meaning that if you make a bracha on bread, that bread doesn't cover porridge? Or is he referring to the Seifa, where the Seifa says that parperes doesn't cover bread, and Beis Shammai says parperes does not only not cover bread, parperes does not even cover maisa kedera. And the Gemara speaks it up. The Ka'amar Tanach, when the Tanach says Berach alapas, and then during the meal you have parperes, and the Tanach says you don't make a bracha rishoina for the parperes, which it means, guys, parperes is more chashuv than maisa kedera. So if parperes is included in the hamoitzi, avade, something that's less chashuv, is for sure included. V'kolchchen maisa kedera. And on that comes Misham and he tells you, loy mi boye, parperes is not included in the hamoitzi. Even though maybe parperes is more chashuv. Let's go, parperes is some sort of pasabah bekisnin. Elo afilu maisa kedera nami loy patra. That's one way of understanding the chumrah of Beis Shammai. Oy Dilma, Beis Shammai was referring to the sefer. What's the case of the sefer? When you make bread, that bread includes in the meal. Beis Shammai will agree to. But when he's saying that if a person makes a bracha on parperes, so again, parperes being chicken or this bird that they used to eat, why would there even be a havamina that the bracha on the parperes would be for pas? It doesn't fit. Parperes was some sort of pasabah bekisnin. So even though it's pasabah bekisnin, and now you're eating a meal, the Mishnah says the parperes demanded its own bracha, but v'loi pater as hapas. So says the Tanach, and on that, what does that imply? Pasu de lipata. Parperes, mezoinus, doesn't cover pas. But if you have parperes and then porridge, then the mezoinus of the parperes does include in it the porridge. And on that, Bishami comes and he says, Afilu maisikadeta nami lipata. So Beishamai's statement is on the Sefer. Now it's important as the Rishonim speak out, even Beishamai holds that if you have different types of mezoinus foods, when you have one, if you intended to have them all, avade, one goes for all. No one argues with that. Here, the person was only planning to eat parperes. Here the question is, you didn't have in mind to have maisikadeta, nor did you dafka not want to have maisikadeta. That is where Beishamai holds, if you did not intend Berachot bitchaktana to have maisikadeta, it doesn't include it. And maybe that's the pshat on Beishamai, and we don't know, Teiku, what is Beishamai on the Resha, or is Beishamai on the Sefer. Let's go weiter.
If that's the case, why does it have to be a different food? You could say it's the same parperes.
Okay, so let's learn into that. So that is saying, is a charaya that if I'm having many pieces of parperes, as long as I did not make a bracha achreina, even though I intended to have one piece, since I made a bracha for this food type, I can have another food type. When does my bracha not include that food type? When I finish the meal. That's Amud Aleph. The question is, how do you?
So within the Zionist, there's different food types.
Within the Zionist, there's different food types, according to Beishamai. Pasa baba kisnin and maisikadeta. Okay, so the Mishnah says that if people are eating individually, then even though midai raisa shemei koina, Chazal say no, you make your own bracha. Hey sevu. When you lean, that's pshat, you're together, and now that you're together, shemei koina, both for bracha rishona and for a bracha achreina. Says the Gemara, asks the Gemara, what's like the Mishnah? Hey sevu in, loy hey sevu, loy. Now we learned the Tosfot, but we're speaking in the times of Chazal, that's the criterion. Times of Chazal, let's go to a Baraisa, Tanoim. 10 people are going. Even though everyone is eating from the same bread, from the same loaf. Why? Because they're walking. They were Americans. The moment they sat down, even though everyone is eating his own sandwich, since they're sitting is what brings togetherness. In other words, Ketani, it says, befedish, sitting down, not leaning. Answers Rav Nachman, Yitzchak, there's another detail. They taka did not lean. You know why? Because they're on a journey. When they would lean, they would sit down for a long time. They didn't want to waste that time. So they ate in a position that it's quicker. But there was another detail that before they sat down, they said, let's go sit over there and eat. Let's stop and eat over there. The Amri Nezel v'nechel lachma beduch plan. When you designate a place for eating, and then you go to that place, the makoim is ma'achet. Kinoch nafshei derav. And that was a Gavaldik answer, because that, if not for this answer, there's a stira between the Mishnah and the Baraisa. Now the Gemara says a story. When the Rav, right, the Rabbeinu, when Rav passed away, Oslu, Talmidov, Basrei, they went, of course, to his burial. And now they're returning, Kihadri. So on the way returning, Amri, they said to each other, Nezel v'nechel lachmo, let's go stop and let's eat bread on Nahar Tanach, and the banks of that river. Maybe because there was no water, so there was water there, whatever the reason. Basar, the karche, after they broke their bread, now they begin to ask, okay, what do we do over here? Do we learn pshat in the Mishnah, hey sevu dafka tanan, and they were not leaning? Could be they were not leaning because they were mourning. Could be it's connected to the mourning, even though they're not children, but they are talmidim. We have to sit in mourning. They were not going to do a haseva. And therefore, avol yashvu loin, therefore everyone should make their own bracha. Oidilma kiven da amri, since we said nezel v'nechel rifta beduchta pilanisa, ki hey sevu dami. They had this question, and v'lei hava b'yodayu, they didn't know the answer. And then they began to mourn for Rav. So come Rav Ada Barahava, Daf Mem Gimel. And Ahadar Kari Lachayri, when a rebbe passes away, all of us have to rip kriya. So he already rent his garments. But when you rent a garment, you rent it, right? That's the halacha. For your father and your mother, al halev on the left side. For all other people on the right side, but all in front of yourself. They used to wear these Moroccan robes. So he wanted to rent again. Now he chap the tragedy of the passing of Rav. We don't know a simple halacha. So he turned his garment around. So now the tear is on the back. So now the front of his garment is yet pre-kriya, untorn. And v'kari kriya and he ripped kriya again. And he says, Noch nafshi de Rav passed away. Ubirchas mizoyna lo gavrim. We don't know a simple halacha. And from their pain came along Elyahu Navi. And Elyahu Navi told him what we just learned. That Rama lumas nisan abraisa. He says, hold on, let's learn. Rav is not here, let's learn. There's a Mishnah, there's a Braisa, they seem to contradict each other. And Vishanalu, and he resolved the stira the way we had of Rav Nachman by Yitzchak, that Kiven, the Amri, Nezel, V'nechel Achlam B'duch Plan, is Kehei Sevel Dami. And therefore, one person makes a bracha for all, God willing, to be continued. Oh, we did it.